Hello, everyone. I'm Fozzie or Cam. Welcome to the Everything Podcast. I'm here, as always, with Will. How you doing today, Will?
Doing pretty good, Cam. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing great. So, I think the first thing we need to talk about today is something that we actually haven't covered on our podcast yet. And I think that's Tom Brady's retirement. I haven't heard what you think about it, Will, yet. But I'd like to hear what you have to say. So, yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I would say, you know, listening to stuff like the Bill Simmons podcast, for instance, like he was saying, like a couple weeks before he announced it, he was like, I think, we could see our last Brady games sometime soon. And I was just thinking, Bill, I just can't see that because he's playing as well as he's ever played right now. So I just feel like there's going to be at least one more year. But then after Tampa Bay lost to the Rams and reading articles about how he had not committed to returning to play like in the past, changed my perspective a bit. So I would say the week leading up to when he announced his retirement was the first time that it really felt real to me that he actually could retire. So I would say when he did announce it, by that time I wasn't too surprised because there had been the reports from
But just the fact that
ESPN.
that we see it confirmed, it's just crazy, man.
Yeah, it certainly is. And look, I mean, is it hard for me to take in right now? Sure, but it's going to be the hardest for me, I think, when I turn on, CBS, Fox, NBC next NFL season and not see him lined up behind center. I'm going to say that that's when it's going to really soak in for me.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. I mean, as much as I'm not a huge fan of Tom Brady, and he just, I'm not a huge fan of him. Like, he kind of left the Patriots. He kind of abandoned us, but he still did so much for our team. He ended up doing so much for our team, and I feel like he definitely is he is the greatest quarterback of all time.
Oh yeah, I mean there is no dispute about that. I mean, I basically feel like I read an article on ESPN.com that listed all of the all the different records he had set during his NFL career, and it was this big, long, gigantic list. And I basically feel like name any quarterback record in the history of the NFL, and 9 times out of 10, it's going to belong to Tom Brady.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, all we have to do is wait. What is it? 5 years till Hall of Fame.
Yeah, you would know better than me, but that sounds right.
I think it's 5 years. So he has 5 years to prepare his speech for the Hall of Fame, and he is definitely one of the great. He is the greatest quarterback of all time, and he had a
Yeah,
great career.
for sure. And I mean, obviously, his legacy was already set before he went to the Tampa
Of
Bay
course.
Buccaneers, but him winning that Super
Oh
Bowl,
my
if there was
gosh.
anything to enhance it to something even more godly than it was that. I mean, for him to do that in a COVID season was unreal. And I know they lost to the Rams in the divisional round, but what he did, leading them back from down 27-3, it blew me away. That, and I was actually thinking, I was like, when the Patriots came back from down 28-3 against the Falcons, it's not like he was devoid of weapons in that game, and they were like moving the ball down the field. They just weren't scoring. In this game, obviously he had Mike Evans and he had Gronk, but those two guys were kind of, coming back from injuries and stuff. He had to rely on receivers that people hadn't really heard of. And watching that game, I mean, that offense just looked so dead in the water
Yeah.
at times. I mean, I was just like, this is tough to watch. So for how just dead in the water that offense looked, for him to come back and tie that game at 27-27, I was absolutely blown away.
Yeah, as was I. And yeah, he definitely is one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. I mean, he had such a legendary. Like, just think of what he did. Think of what he did. I mean, he came. Alright, first, why don't we think of how long he's been in the NFL? I mean, jeez. He started in 2001. It is currently 2022. That is amazing.
Absolutely.
And he's 44, 45 years old?
44, yeah.
And he made it to the playoffs this year. It's just insane. And like I said, as much as I can't stand him for making the decisions he made with the Patriots, I do have to respect that he's the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yeah, and let me say this, like, even if I, disagree with you about some things of him leaving the Pats situation, let me see this, like, or let me say this, like, being, hurt or like, having it, hit you hard when he left the Pats, let me say that I totally understand that. And when I first heard the news, I also was just like, wow, this is crazy. So I do want to say that I can totally understand, kind of not being able to wrap your head around him being with a different team besides the Patriots.
It really is nuts, but I guess that's just the way he's going to be. And at first, it actually wasn't confirmed. I saw on ESPN that they're saying it, but it wasn't confirmed. He hadn't come out and said it himself. But then I think a day later, he actually came out and said it. So
right, and
I had faith that he was that it was all a rumor. I was kind of laughing about that. But no, it turns out Tom Brady is retired, and maybe we'll see him do something else. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I was reading also, I think it was saying that Brady didn't want to kind of have the news weave into championship weekend with the AFC and NFC championship games. And after the news broke Saturday, I mean, his agent, his dad, and there was a statement how he went to Tampa Bay and said that his decision hadn't been fully made yet. So that was a clear sign to ESPN to kind of, check your sources more carefully. And if I were ESPN, I mean, I would have kind of waited more until maybe
it's kind of embarrassing for them.
Until maybe after championship weekend. But beyond that, if you're ESPN, just let him break the news himself, and then you can write all of your articles about how Tom Brady is retiring and all the great things that he's done. So, wake up call for ESPN, I would say.
I agree, but like you said, he's great. But the next thing I want to talk about with you is a movie that I watched today. I know that was a very, very bad segue into the next topic here, but we moved Tom Brady to Ghostbusters Afterlife. Now, I never saw this movie in theaters because I don't really know why. I was like, oh yeah, I gotta see that. I should probably go see that. And I never ended up seeing it. But I watched it today, and I was very impressed. It was a great movie.
Yeah.
You saw it a while back. How did you feel about it?
Oh, yeah, no, I totally agree with what you said. I just thought it was just really well done, so fun, and, we can dive into the nitty-gritty in just a second, but I just want to start by saying this. Bill Murray comes through every time.
And, yeah, he really does, but I feel like they did a good job in this movie. Like, they didn't over-rely on Bill Murray, which I think is a really cool thing that they did. Because I feel like a lot of people would just go 100%, all the nostalgia, all the fan service, which a lot of fans would would have liked, some of them wouldn't have, but I think they made it better by just putting the original characters at the end, except for Egon,
Yeah.
of course.
And also the thing was it's not just like this is a random family and then the original Ghostbusters are coming in and helping them at the end. No. Harold Ramis's Egon Spengler character is kind of just the ghost hovering over this entire film. So it's not just like this is some random family on a farm and then the Ghostbusters come and help them fight ghosts at the end. No. These are people related to an original Ghostbuster. So I just thought that entire storyline was fantastic.
I totally agree. I think it was one of my favorite movies I've watched in a while. I mean, obviously No Way Home was one of the best movies of all time. But this was a nice film. It was super funny. It was really funny. It was filled with heart. It was dramatic at times, and it made me laugh. It made me sad. I mean, seeing how they recreated Harold Ramis was just a beautiful tribute to him, and I think the fact that they dedicated the entire movie to him is just insane. And I'm very happy with what they did with Egon, and I do have one complaint, actually.
All right, go ahead.
This might be a little silly, but
All right.
I think the movie would have been better if Paul Rudd was in it more. Because around like the final act, Paul Rudd kind of just disappears because he gets trapped in the dog body thing.
Right.
Which, I get it. I get why they did it, but Paul Rudd's awesome. And I feel like he kind of disappeared towards the end, which kind of stunk, but I know they had to do it for the movie. But I would have liked to see more of Paul Rudd, but we didn't see a lot of him. But
and he has that like great scene with those little like marsh fellow ghost things. That scene was just fantastic.
Oh yeah, and I feel like it made me sad because Egon. It's too bad that he passed away in real life because he seemed like a really nice guy. I watched some interviews with him. He seemed like a nice person.
Yeah, I totally trust you on that. But I did not have an issue with how much Paul Rudd was or wasn't in the film, but I get what you're saying. And in terms of Paul Rudd's performance, it was, or at least from the Paul Rudd films that I've seen, it was comedic Paul Rudd at his absolute finest. He was excellent in this film.
I agree, but one thing I did notice, actually. So, there was one original character from the first and second movie. If you remember, the nerdy guy, Rick Moranis, plays Louis Tully. I think that's his name.
Yeah, that sounds right, yeah.
But, I noticed he wasn't in it.
You know, that's a great point. Here's my take. I bet they at least like talked to that actor and tried to get that character in the film. So unless it like completely didn't work with the story, I can't imagine that didn't cross their minds.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I was cuz Dana Barrett
Oh yeah.
I was confused why we didn't see her in the movie, but we saw her in kind of an end credit scene, which made me happy.
With more classic comedic Bill Murray.
Oh yeah, of course. That was a really funny scene.
Well, in the case of True Love, didn't he say something along those lines? He's just the best.
Yeah, he really is, and I think Winston is. He's a great character, you know. He is one of my favorite characters in the Ghostbusters movies. I'd say it goes Bill Murray, then Winston. I don't know why. I feel like Winston's kind of underappreciated, and people don't really like Winston. I don't know really why.
Probably because he comes along maybe like more kind of halfway through the film, and he's not as well known an actor as Bill, Dan, and Harold. But no, I feel the same way.
Yeah, but I think he played his role beautifully, and Dan Aykroyd as Ray also was amazing.
Absolutely.
But why don't we talk about some of the younger actors, specifically Finn Wolfhard playing oh gosh, what was his name?
Trevor, I think.
Trevor, yes, Trevor. He was awesome. He was great.
For sure.
He was so funny, and I think he was just he was probably my favorite part of the movie, other than Bill Murray or when Paul Rudd was in it. Yeah.
Let me say this though, that podcast kid, that was so brilliant. What they did with that character was so fantastic. Podcast, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I liked him. Sometimes he kind of annoyed me. I'm not gonna lie.
All right,
but he was funny a lot of the time. Actually,
personally, I thought that was a great.
Yeah,
in my mind.
Yeah, he definitely had some great comedic scenes. And then McKenna Grace as Phoebe
carried the film.
Oh wow, she was hilarious. Like laugh out loud hilarious.
Carried the film, absolutely.
Yeah, she was great. She was so funny. Like, she was really funny. And I thought this actually, that was one of the best child actor performances I've ever seen. She was really good.
Yeah, me and my dad, we were talking about after we made the film, and my dad made a good point. I'm paraphrasing slightly, but he was saying we've seen some bad kid performances in certain films, but this was not one of those films. The kid performances were fantastic all throughout.
For sure. I think and when what was the secretary's name in Ghostbusters? I want to look it up. Oh, what was her name?
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, no, again, I totally agree with everything you're saying about this film, Cam. I thought it was just a really creative, fun, brilliant, and yet emotional in a way to bring Ghostbusters back in to the world as a film. I was really, really impressed.
So was I. I mean, it was great to see. And fun fact, the person who directed this film is the son of the director of the original Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And he actually had his dad on set for most of the scenes to give him advice.
Yeah, that's awesome. The whole thing from Ivan to Jason, that's just great. That whole storyline in that whole arc of it.
Oh yeah, totally. Now, well, I think we're gonna change topics to movies. Oh wait, before we do that, Will, I'm going to give this movie an A-. Great movie. What would you give this for letter grade?
I actually think that I totally agree with you. I mean, it's not like I have any complaints or would change anything, but I feel like kind of, A+ can maybe belong to films that would go under the category of epic, like an Avengers Endgame, for instance. So let me just say I don't really have any complaints or anything I would change about this film, but I think I actually totally agree with you about the A- grade.
All right. So, I think it's time to talk about some music. Will, what have you been listening to recently?
Nothing much new at the moment to report, so I'll turn this back over to you, Cam. What have you been listening to recently?
I've been listening to a lot of Lovejoy. It's a band. It's an indie rock band, and they don't have a lot of songs. If you'd like to look them up, they don't have a lot of albums, but they have 2 EPs, and they're very good. One is called Pebble Brain, and the other is called... Wait, let me remember. The other is called Are You Alright? And they just came out with a single, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, called Knee Deep at ATP, which is great. And they're not very popular, but they're a great band, and I really enjoy listening to them. And I think you guys should check them out too, and I think you should too, Will.
Yeah. I wrote them down, and I wrote down what you said. So I will for sure. And I think that this is just another great example, Cam, of the different areas and bands and artists that you have discovered over the years. I would say it's a pretty long, great list of people that you have discovered and listened to over the years for you as a music fan.
Would you like to hear how long my Spotify playlist is?
Sure.
16 hours and 30 minutes.
There you go. There you go.
235 songs.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, so I have quite a few artists that I've been listening to, but this technically could go in our movie review segment, but technically it's a musical, so right now I'm gonna talk about Tick Tick Boom. I've been listening to the soundtrack on repeat for days. It's amazing. And the movie is just so good. And I know you watched it, Will. You told me a little bit about it, how you felt about it. But why don't you tell our audience?
Oh yeah, no. I am with you that it was a very good film. I would not describe myself overall as a musical kind of guy, but that did not stop me from thinking that it was a very good film. I'm actually gonna go as far as to say this. Andrew Garfield is exceptional in this movie. He is just fantastic. So yeah, I would definitely recommend people to kind of look up a bit about Jonathan Larson before seeing the film, because I think it can maybe enhance the viewing experience if you know about his story. But really good film,
Totally.
and
But
Andrew
going
is
into it, I did not know anything about Jonathan Larson, but I still really enjoyed this movie. But I think it would help a little bit if you definitely knew who he was a little bit. And in case you're wondering and don't want to look it up, he created the play Rent, which was very popular. I've never seen it, or I know there's
Neither
a movie
have I.
adaptation of it, and I haven't watched it, but I'm definitely gonna check it out at some point.
Yeah, and getting back to the soundtrack for a bit, I heard you off air during our last pod. You said a song that was really sticking out to you was 3090, right?
Oh yeah, I think that's the best one on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
And I just keep listening to it. It's amazing. So, Will, would you like to go ahead and give us a movie of the week?
Yeah, movie of the week. Geesh, I should have thought about this more, but believe it or not, I know this is kind of boring, but I really did enjoy this film. And because we talked about it earlier, I'm going to go ahead and actually give it to Ghostbusters Afterlife, because I just thought this was a really just fun, again, a bit emotional as well film. And it was just, as I said, a really great way to bring Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and crew back into our lives. So I'm going to give that for my movie of the week.
All right. And you already give it a rating. You've already given it a rating.
Yeah, I'll go in A-, and I guess in terms of like stars, if you're asking me out of 5 stars, I guess that would be about a 4 out of 5 star rating.
Yeah. And if you're looking for a good Bill Murray movie, Will, I think I might have told you this already, but I would recommend The Grand Budapest Hotel. He's not in it all that much, but when he is, it's awesome, and by itself, it's a great movie. And he's in a lot of movies directed by Wes Anderson.
For sure.
So yeah, have you watched any of Wes Anderson movies with Bill Murray?
Yes, I have. I couldn't. I can't kind of put Wes Anderson's name like with a particular film for some reason at this time, so I couldn't name exactly which films those were, but I absolutely have, and I know that he's worked with him a lot, obviously.
Yeah, Wes Anderson has. As a matter of fact, my profile picture is from the movie The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's just one of Wes Anderson's unique shots he has in his movies.
Cool.
And when he's in it, Bill Murray's great.
And
you might recognize that guy on the left, Will, of my profile picture. You know who that guy is?
Who is that?
That is Flash. That is Flash Thompson from the Spider-Man movies.
What do you know?
Yep.
That is great. Wow. I would have never guessed that. Wow.
Yeah. Now, before we end this podcast, I'd like to talk about the Book of Boba Fett. And I know you've been watching it, and I know the show's not over, so we can't give it an official review, but I kind of just want to talk about how we're liking it so far.
I've been liking it a lot. Cam, there's no way I can't talk about this. So, all right, if you haven't seen episodes 5 and 6, you can't listen to us right now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna spoil.
Yeah,
Thank you for tuning into this episode, but get off if you haven't seen episodes 5 and 6, because I do not want to spoil this for you. Anyway, overall, before episodes 5 and 6, I was really enjoying the show. I thought episode 2 especially was just fantastic, with him getting really inducted into that tribe. But episodes 5 and 6, boy, what a brilliant thing to do. And Star Wars, I love Star Wars. I think people know that, but they just continue to blow me away with their storylines and what they've been able to do. And I just think they're in a great place right now. So I've been actually, but let me change from really liking it. After these last 2 episodes, I would say that I've been loving it, Cam.
Yeah. Now, have you watched the Clone Wars TV show?
I am actually in the middle of doing that right now. I've watched season 1 and 5 episodes of season 2. So I'm still very early, but yes, a bit. And I am really, really, really liking that as well.
And now, it's not like a kid show like you would think it is, actually. It's actually... Yeah. It's a really good show. And I know sure. I can't say I've seen every episode, because there are quite a few episodes.
Many.
And some of them are just ridiculous and kind of boring. Like, there's literally one episode dedicated to only droids, and that's an episode that you could skip. You do not need to watch every single episode, because technically you only do need to watch the main plot episodes to understand what happens in Star Wars. But some of them are fun that are just kind of spin-off episodes. But
yeah, and I am glad that I was watching that show because
Cad
Bane, yes.
Oh,
I think the last episode of the Book of Boba Fett, but overall
I was insanely shocked when I saw that. Oh my gosh. I wasn't expecting it in the slightest. It was, oh my gosh. He is one of the most evil people in the Clone Wars TV show. Oh my gosh, was I amazed that I am seeing Cad Bane in live action.
Absolutely, and they're doing a great job with Ahsoka Tano in live action as well.
Wow. Yeah.
Obviously,
Luke Skywalker. He looks real.
Oh yeah, for sure. And they had Mark Hamill's name mentioned in the
he was doing the voice
credits at the end. So it must be great for Mark Hamill to finally, and I do think he was able to do it in The Rise of Skywalker in that scene with Rey, but it must be great for him to finally get to play like a truly wise Luke, unlike he was able to do in a movie that you hate, The Last Jedi.
All right. Well, actually, there's gonna be an episode of the Only Movies show hosted by me.
Oh boy.
I'll be talking about episodes 7, 8, and 9 of Star Wars.
Even though I'm gonna disagree with most of the things you say, I cannot wait, and I will be tuning into that. You know I will.
Now, my opinion has changed a little bit for a better and worse, kind of, actually.
Yeah.
But I'll say I like Last Jedi slightly more than I did before, and Rise of Skywalker, well, that's just gone downhill.
Interesting.
I just rewatched both of those recently, and
oh, you did? Okay.
ugh.
Yeah, I actually watched the endings to both of those recently as well. So, getting back to the Clone Wars for a second, overall, I wouldn't describe myself as somebody who watches animated things, but I must say, I've been watching this show and I'm just plugged in. I'm really, really enjoying it.
Yeah, it's a really good show, and I think it's a lot of fun.
That's how I feel too. Like, I feel like it's just a great thing. Like, for instance, like you come home come home from school, pick your feet up on the couch, and watch a 25-minute.
Yeah, and that's a great thing about it. They're not that
really
long.
Fun show called The Clone Wars.
Yeah, and I like how it's not just about one big story like Mando or something like that.
Yeah,
I like how it's like a mini series,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no.
And now they're obviously bringing characters from that show into live action, as we just said, Ahsoka Tano and Cad Bane.
The person I'd like to see next in live action is Captain Rex.
That would be nice.
Because he's in the TV show Star Wars Rebels, which is more of a kid show. It's a good show for the younger Star Wars audience, but you can't compare it to Clone Wars. But I know he's in that, but it's still not live action yet. But
right. And then there was The Bad Batch this past year, right?
Yeah, I never watched that. I really wasn't interested in it. Because I'm not gonna lie, I haven't watched season 7 of Clone Wars yet.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of people review it and say it didn't need to be made. It didn't have to happen because we already knew how it was gonna go. So I kind of stayed away from it. But I'm definitely gonna watch it sooner or later.
Yeah, I would say what I'm going to do. Like, I have heard, some people tell me that they've watched the Bad Batch, even if they haven't seen season 7 of the Clone Wars, for instance. But I think I'm gonna finish the Clone Wars.
All 133 episodes.
Yes, it's going to take a long, long time, but I think I'm gonna do it, and then only then will I consider watching the Bad Batch.
Yeah. Only 16 episodes of that, so you're in luck.
Yes, that is for sure.
All right, so I think we've covered everything we need to cover.
Yeah, I think so too. Awesome to talk some Star Wars with you again, and I just want to give them a round of applause because these last 2 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett have been just exemplary.
For sure. All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of the Everything Podcast. Bye.